Good day everyone. My name is Dr. Rovini Grace Bimones, and this is an opportunity for me to share my knowledge to you, and the topic that was given to me is assessment in teaching poetry. So I have prepared here a PowerPoint presentation. Assessment in teaching poetry. We all know that it is another challenge in the teaching of poetry, the way teachers assess the learning outcomes of the learners. So, aside from so much reading and writing that both the teachers and learners should do, the extent to which the learning competencies in teaching poetry is indeed difficult to measure. So, for this reason, Cohen 2011 suggested several ways to effectively assess learners' input or output when it comes to poetry. Okay? So the first one is rubric. So what is rubric? This is very important in assessing subjective outputs because it gives clear direction for the learners to finish the task regarding poetry. It will guide them to come up with a product based on the criteria presented in the rubric. Let's see. Rubric type of rating scale are a structured approach to assessing students' poetry and focus on assessing a predetermined set of criteria. In the same manner, it will also guide teachers in giving scores and grades in their output. So let's proceed to the next one is a holistic rubric. So what is holistic rubrics? It focuses on the work as a whole, provided that mistakes in part may exist without compromising the overall integrity of the piece. Analytical rubrics are generally more specific and contain several criteria that are being rated simultaneously. Due to their focus and clarity, many teachers find this rubric a helpful and functional assessment tool as accorded by ALFID 2020. So, it says here that there are important features of a rubric for poetry, includes point value, specifics, and consistency. So, let's first discuss the point value. Point value, since different levels of competence can be reflected in the rubric, make sure to include the points that they will receive if they attain specific level, like novice 1 points or 2 points, intermediate 3 points, advanced 4 points, and expert 5 points. So why are we giving this type of standards to the students? Well, this will help learners to identify the level and points that they want to receive. So, the next one is specifics. Be specific with the description of each criterion in each level of competence because it will be the standards that your students should follow. And the more specific the descriptions are, the easier for the learners to follow and for the teachers to grade them, and also we have consistency. Always follow what you prescribe in the rubric and do not adjust it for the sake of others, students, because you should explain to them the content of the rubrics and agreed on it. So, if learners are requesting for some adjustment in the rubrics, make sure that it will be done before they begin with their task. We are doing this because we want our students to stick to the given rubrics and we need them to give their full potential in doing the given task. So, number 2 is poetry portfolio. What is poetry portfolio and what is the importance of it? Require each learners to have a poetry folder where all the finished product or even drafts will be put inside it. Using this, learners and teachers can see their own progress from beginning when they learn poetry up to the last. And portfolios allow room for creativity, process, and mechanics, while representing the student's whole body of work. By this, the teacher is generally able to see where the student started and the growth the student achieves by the end of the project. Portfolios also typically take into account a student's perception of his work as well as the teacher's evaluation and are quite comprehensive. Our number 3 is provide guide question. So, providing learners guide question that will direct them to fully comprehend to the poem is effective way not just in teaching them but also in assessing what they have learned. It provides an orientation to interpreting poems. At this point, they are no longer simply analyzing and extracting the information, but are now looking at the poem as a whole and attempting to explain their understanding of its manner, their understanding of its meaning. This will also make teachers' task in checking their output because specific aspects of the poem will be its focus. The fourth one is reflection. We can also call this journaling. Learners can have a separate small notebook which we call journaling, where they will write their reflection of the poem. Journaling serves several purposes: reflection, critical thinking, and connection. When completed as a reflection of progress, journaling allows students to review where they started and track their improvements. It will serve as their journal in every dealing with poetry. It also encourages critical thinking, for they will connect the poem to realities of life. Journals may be used to evaluate oneself or as one element of a larger assessment. So there are several ways of doing reflection, and to make it more designable, students may use different forms of journals, like diary style, reflective journals, double entry journals, dialogue journals between teachers and students, and reader response journals. So number 5 is display their output. Why are we doing this? Well, this will also motivate learners to come up with good output, for they will feel proud as they will see their works displayed in the walls of the classroom or in the poetry corners. So, students who are showing interest in his work allows the teacher to assess properly the student's activities based on his abilities, and it will serve as an achievement to students when they feel that their work is the best among others. Thus, it will also motivate the other students to do their best in their activities. This technique is used to motivate students or as a standalone method for assessment. Cohen 2011 suggested these ways to effectively assess learners' output when it comes to poetry. And as a teacher, we should do lots of researching on how to achieve the best way of evaluating students, like this one, teaching and peer conferences, whether peer-to-peer or teacher to students, conferencing. So, conferencing provides a window of insights into the intention of the student's poem. Quite often, discussing a student's writing with him personally allows him the opportunity to explain creative liberties, variations in conventions, and the purpose of the poem. This type of assessment is provided to look for the one another's growth, rate, and expected outcomes. And that's all. I hope you acquired knowledge from me, and that would be all. But before that, I would like to say thank you for this opportunity to share my knowledge to you. And thank you. I am giving the screen to the host.